And, of course, some teams have already played in Week 0, like Caleb Williams, who's on top of Tom Fornelli's quarterback rankings. No surprise there. Drake May is number 2. North Carolina has a big game against South Carolina to open the season. And Sam Hartman all the way up at number 3. Great showing in Week 0 against Navy. Top 10 rankings at CBSSports.com. And we're going to dive into that right now with Tom Fornelli and our number 1 ranked quarterback, Danny Kanell. Let's start up at number 1, Tom. It seems like a pretty easy pick at the top with Caleb Williams. What went into ranking these guys this year?
Power rankings are a very serious and scientific method that I use to determine who the best quarterbacks in the country are. No, this is pretty easy. Caleb Williams, when you think of college football in 2023, is usually the first player that comes to mind. He won the Heisman last year. He's very highly likely to be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft next spring, depending on who ends up with that pick. But he's just an electric player, and we saw it in Week 1 against San Jose State in that there was one play in which he dropped the snap, picked it up, took a couple steps to his right, and then without stepping into the throw, launched the ball 50 yards in the air on a dime for a touchdown pass. And that's just the kind of stuff that Caleb Williams does that there really aren't any other players in the country who are capable of doing so. I mean, this is a guy who finished last year at number 1 in my power rankings. He's going to start this year, obviously, at number 1 in my power rankings. And it is going to be very hard for somebody to dethrone him because, as we also saw on Saturday night, he's playing on a team with a defense that is going to force him to throw a lot of touchdowns if they want to keep winning games.
So Caleb Williams 1, Drake May 2. Those guys are 1, 2 on the big board for quarterbacks next year in the NFL draft as well. They could go 1 and 2 overall in the NFL draft. At number 3, Tom admitted he moved Sam Hartman up a couple of spots, Danny, because of how he performed in Week 0 in Ireland against Navy. What do you think about Hartman that high up?
Boy, I tell you, Tom Fornelli is usually calm, cool, collected, doesn't overreact, and he launches Sam Hartman up this board all the way to number 3. But I kind of like it. And here's why. You're talking to somebody who owns a ticket on Sam Hartman at 35-1 to win the Heisman Trophy. I hope everybody buys into the hype around Sam Hartman. But I do think he answered some legitimate question marks. You know, going from Wake Forest, playing in a unique system where they ran that slow mesh, pairing up with an offensive coordinator and Jared Parker, who's calling plays for the first time. And I get that Navy could have possibly a down year, and they're not going to be the juggernaut they've been at times over the past decade with a new coaching staff and a new look there at Navy. But you still went out and you passed the test with flying colors. I mean, it was really close to a perfect performance for everybody. And the fact that he found Greathouse twice in the end zone tells me maybe they found some weapons to work with the wide receiver. So I think it's probably one of those ones you can get on our boy Tom for overreacting, but I think you can absolutely make the case for Sam Hartman right now of being the 3rd best out there of all the college quarterbacks.
Oh, the QB power rankings are all about overreactions and vibes. And you missed one important thing about Sam Hartman. Did you see his hair? Last year, Sam Hartman was kind of playing with the high and tight hairdo. This offseason, he's let it grow out. He's got the flow going. He's got the beard. He looks like Teen Wolf in a weird way. It looks great on him. So when you combine that, he pops in that gold and blue. He just looked good in the game. And as you mentioned, Danny, Navy, probably not the toughest team Notre Dame is going to face this year. It's probably one of the easier times he's going to have, but he played phenomenal in that game. Notre Dame looks like a real threat this season, and they've got a couple tough games on the schedule that they're going to have to get through, but I think with Sam Hartman, they're in a much better spot this year to get through them than they were last year.
Won't have problems in their second game against Tennessee State, but they have to go to NC State, and then they later this month in September, they have Ohio State. That is going to be a marquee matchup. Let's jump down to the only first-year starter in Tom's rankings, 1 to 10 quarterback rankings, and it's Georgia's Carson Beck at number 7. Tom, why do you have him so high as the only first-year starter up there?
I mean, he has to be in the top 10. He is the starting quarterback for the 2-time defending champion Georgia Bulldogs, the favorite to win another national title this season and three-peat. And you look at what they've done in the last few years, like, I love Stetson Bennett. I've been high on Stetson Bennett for the last few years. I think he got drafted for a reason. I think he's very talented. But when you looked at Georgia's roster the last few years, Stetson was the guy that was looked at as the quote-unquote wink link. Carson Beck is a more talented player than Stetson Bennett, and he is stepping into a machine in which you look at that Georgia schedule this year, it's hard to find a loss. I think Carson Beck is going to have a very solid season with the Bulldogs. He's going to put up very good numbers, and once again, Georgia will be winning the SEC and playing in the college football playoff, so he's in a very powerful position. So there was just no way I could leave him out of the top 10 to start the year.
I liked you going with a first-year starter because one of these guys is going to pop. I would have gone with a different one over at Clemson in Cade Klubnik. And I would have gone over Kyle McCord because Kyle McCord, we don't even know if he's outright won the job yet going against Devin Brown. But Cade Klubnik inherits the hottest offensive coordinator in the game in Garrett Riley coming to Clemson to take over that system. And the last time we saw Clemson replace an offensive coordinator, they brought in Chad Morris. And that was the start of a run which put Clemson on the map as a national powerhouse. Cade Klubnik has a Will Shipley in the backfield, Mo Baffa in the backfield as well. He's got depth at the running back position. He's got receivers. I think they're going to open it up offensively, and there's a fresh energy around Clemson's program that I think is going to infuse a lot of life into this program. And also, the reason I would not have gone with Carson Beck is they lost their offensive coordinator, Todd Monken, to the NFL. Mike Bobo returns. We still don't know exactly what he's going to look like offensively. So I would have gone with Cade Klubnik. Plus, he plays in the ACC.
All right, let's move to 8 and 9. We got an ACC guy here, Jordan Travis, Jaden Daniels. Those guys are 8 and 9 respectively. They play each other. And even though Danny's Florida State guy is ranked ahead of the LSU guy, Danny, you still have a problem with this. Why?
Well, I would have had Jordan Travis higher. I mean, he's got more experience than anybody on this list that we've talked about outside of Sam Hartman. And here's the case I would make for Jordan Travis. He has better weapons than anybody in the country, and he's got an innovative play caller in Mike Norvell. But he's got 6'7" Johnny Wilson, who was his favorite target last year on the outside. He's got Keon Coleman, who's 6'4", coming in from Michigan State. Probably is one of the best, wide receiving options in the transfer portal that they inherited. Jaheim Bell at tight end is 6'5". He's a big target, and he's got a run game and an offensive line to boot. Man, I think Jordan Travis is absolutely going to light up teams this year, and I think you'll see that on display Sunday night versus LSU. Plus, did I mention he can run around and make plays? Those Heisman moments that we look for, he's electric as a runner. I think he's the perfect position right now at Florida State to really place them back on the stage.
Listen, I love Jordan Travis. He has immaculate vibes. He's going to make some incredible plays. And you're right, Danny. As the season goes on, he's probably going to climb in these power rankings. But luckily, Sunday night, with these two going against each other, Jordan Travis and Jaden Daniels, we'll get an answer right away as to which one deserves to be ranked higher or above the other one, because I think Jaden Daniels has a lot of the same similar qualities that you just mentioned with Jordan Travis. He is a guy that when the play breaks down can use his legs to make things happen. Where I think Travis is better than him, and the reason I have Travis slightly ahead of him on the rankings is I think Jordan Travis is a little bit better on script at this point than Jaden Daniels is, and I think he's also a little bit better down the field with the passing vertical attack. But these are both very good quarterbacks who I expect to be in the top 10 all season long on these power rankings and very possibly climbing higher, as I think these are two teams that, as the year goes on, they're going to be competing both for their conference titles and a playoff berth, which carries a lot of weight in these rankings.
Speaking of the playoffs, we mentioned McCord, the starting quarterback at least for week 1 for Ohio State, but no Ohio State guy, no Alabama guy at that point. Two teams that many expect to be in the college football playoff as well. Danny and Tom can be seen on and heard on the Cover 3 podcast. The latest episode is a look ahead to the early games in week 1, Thursday, Utah, Florida. That's where Josh Pate is going to be. We also have Minnesota and Nebraska previews for Thursday night.